in my letter, she put a massive paragraph about like me having gender identities disorder, and how a hysterectomy will sort of like change my life, because like it was not getting through to her. So as soon as she said the idea of just like, oh, it sounds like you're trans, I'm like, yeah, I am.
When you think of somebody who is faking being trans, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Is it 14-year-old kids with blue hair who are deep in identity politics and hate everybody, including themselves? Or is it somebody like the model who faked being trans to avoid responsibility for previous transphobic comments?
People started calling me transphobic. My agency sent me home from Japan. I made a second post that got me into way more trouble. I'm transgender. A week after I had posted that I was trans, I then posted that I lied about being trans.
What if I told you it was simply a biological woman in dire need of a medical procedure who was being denied treatment because she wasn't trans? Hi, I'm Arielle. I'm a lesbian, and if you are new to this channel, I am a lesbian that supports trans rights, but I am also a lesbian that supports women's rights. Sometimes they butt heads, a little too often. And I wanted to make this video today to show the juxtaposition between trans rights and women's rights at the moment. We are now at a point in many of the United States, many of the states in the UK and Canada, where somebody that claims to be trans can literally walk into a clinic and get testosterone and estrogen just like that. Blair White actually made a video on this very recently. But if you are a biological woman who is in dire need of a serious medical procedure for her health, they don't give a shit. So I happen to have a friend here with us today to talk about the time she faked being trans for her health. I mean, I would have done it too. Who wouldn't? Obviously, you guys had a ton of questions for her, so let's just go and dive in.
Hey, how's it going? So my name is SJ. I'm from Western Australia. Back in 2014, I got diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, which I know you suffer from as well. A lot of women do. I think it's like 1 in 5 now. The average woman bleeds about 30 to 40 mils during their period. Anything over 80 mils is considered to be heavy. And so for me, in the last couple of years, it's been somewhere between 380 mils to 400 mils, which is considered to be acute blood loss. I just started going downhill because anything to do with hormones can really affect basically everything about your body.
It upsets me when I see people not taking this sort of stuff as seriously as they would depression and anxiety, or gender dysphoria, so to speak, because we're going to segue into that.
I started going to the doctor 2 years ago, and she's just like, yeah, no, we're not going to give you a hysterectomy. The gynecologist she referred me to is a man, and my trans guy mate saw the same gynecologist as me, and he was 25 when he got his hysterectomy. And so that's what I wanted to get.
This is clearly a medical necessity. And what did the doctor, and the doctors weren't for it, right?
Generally, in my neck of the woods, Western Australia, to get a hysterectomy is you have to have already 2 kids, be married, and also get your husband's permission. So with the psychologist, she gave me a hard time. She was doing her best to sort of try and talk me out of it. Oh, your sex life isn't going to be the same, like your orgasms are going to be like sort of like less intense. I started like thinking about my plan B, because I had this in my mind for quite some time. So I was saying stuff like, well, I hate the way that my body looks. I described my uterus as it felt alien to me and like really unnatural. So she came to the conclusion that I'm trans. So I sort of just went along with it. I'm just like, you know what? That was going to be my plan B anyway.
You had that in the back of your mind, like, if this doesn't work, I'm going to tell them I'm trans, because if they don't accept me for being trans, they're going to be called transphobic.
Like my trans mate had no problems. Hey Taz, did you have to have like a psych review in order to get your surgery? And it's just like, mate, what are you talking about? No, I didn't have to have like.
So basically they're saying that trans rights are being taken more seriously than women's rights.
That's the idea.
Or trans health, rather. I would say trans health is being taken more seriously than women's health at the moment.
Hello, like lesbian, like, because this guy did not let up about me not wanting to have kids. Every single thing he told me, I had some sort of rebuttal to. And this is the stuff that I was telling the psychologist as well. And she's like, oh, it's a really permanent decision.
But they don't do that same thing when it comes to the trans community. Like, they don't question it.
In like my letter, she put a massive paragraph about like me having gender identities disorder, and how a hysterectomy will sort of like change my life, because like it was not getting through to her. So as soon as she said the idea of just like, oh, it sounds like you're trans, I'm like, yeah, I am.
I just want people to know, like, you literally had to fake or go along with being trans So you
I
can
don't
be
think I would
healthy.
have got my surgery otherwise.
So that goes,
And
like you said this in a message to me, like it goes back to like the beginning of feminism, right? That women should be able to do what they want with their bodies. It's just crazy how the argument is like, you might regret this later on. They're not applying the same logic to trans people here.
no, like it was like my trans guy mate was treated completely and utterly differently.
Did they ever question your sincerity?
Not at
As
all.
soon as you went along with being trans, they were just like, okay,
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah, there was a
what we
big
need to do here.
massive paragraph, but there was nothing in there about how, like, my goal was simply just to live, like to actually have a job, to not nap through the day. Like I was sleeping probably 10 to like 12 hours a day because I was so anemic all the time. Even with like having iron supplements, iron infusions, I would just bleed all that sort of stuff out. The whole thing was, I just want to be normal. I just want to live. I want to have a job, you know?
What other avenues did you try before going the pretend you're trans route?
I mean, I was trying to do the right thing of just like, hey, I'm this chick who, you know, I don't want to have kids.
Saying like, are you sure that you don't want to do the only thing that women are supposed to do? It's like, fuck you.
Pretty much.
Okay, last question. Have you gotten any hate from the trans community or from biological women?
2 hateful comments, because I made my own video where I sort of ranted about this. Yeah, but like there was so many other positive comments from the trans community as well. Just like, you know what? I don't blame you, because if the doctors aren't going to listen to you, for me, this was like a last ditch effort of just like, I have no idea what else I could do.
You were just making the best out of your situation. This is obviously something that, in my opinion, our opinion, a lot of people that are watching this video are going to agree with us, because I know my audience. It's something that needs to be like changed in law. I think anyone with mental distress should be questioned more than somebody without mental illness, and that includes somebody that might have depression, anxiety, whatever, gender dysphoria, anything. But if it's just someone that's a woman, a biological woman that just needs help and is old enough to understand the possible repercussions and, you know, the possibility of not being able to have kids in the future, whatever, let the fucking woman do what she wants. Like, gee, it's not that, like, it's wild that it's 2021. People are still treating women like they're inferior. My depression is gone now, because guess what? Like, the poison in my body that was endometriosis is now yeast out of there. So I'm fine now. So thank you so much for being open about all this and for sharing your story, because these stories might get a bit of hate because people are saying, oh, you can't compare trans stuff to biological women. And it's like, yes, we can. Yes, we can. And we're going to show that, you know, 2 things can be true at once. You know, you can take trans women and trans men seriously, and you can also take biological women seriously. And I think that's the message here. Thank you so much to SJ for being a part of this video. And thank you guys for sending all the comments and questions. And thank you even more to the people who are subscribed to my locals page. Go to arielle.locals.com. It's free to sign up. But if you want the bonus content that a lot of people are signing up for, it's only $5 a month, and it helps me continue to create content that needs to be talked about, especially since YouTube demonetized me on here again. And if you don't believe me, you can look and check. There's no ads on this video, because that's how it goes these days. So please, if you can, go and support me over there. And other than that, I will see you guys back here and over there in a few days with a brand new video. Until then, I love you. Love yourselves. Bye, bitch.